My name is David Thompson. I'm 19 years old and I'm writing this letter with trembling hands, not just from the cold of this French trench, but from the weight of what I need to tell you. Mom, when I boarded that ship in New York 6 months ago, I was just a farm boy from Missouri. Remember how I used to chase chickens in the yard and how Dad taught me to shoot old cans with Grandpa's rifle? I thought I knew what courage was. I thought I understood what it meant to defend our country. The ocean was vaster than I had ever imagined. Days and days of dark blue water, waves that rocked our ship as if we were just a leaf in the wind. Many of the boys got seasick, but I stayed on deck, looking at the horizon, thinking about you and Dad, wondering what France would be like. When we finally arrived in Le Havre, the smell was different from anything I knew. It wasn't the sweet aroma of cut hay or the scent of ripe apples in the orchard. It was a smell of iron, of smoke, of something I couldn't name at the time, but now I know was the smell of war. Sergeant Miller, a tough man from Texas, gathered us on the first day. "Boys," he said, spitting on the ground, "you're not in Kansas anymore. Here you kill or die. There's no middle ground." I laughed nervously, thinking he was exaggerating. How wrong I was, Mom. How terribly wrong I was. The first weeks were training. We learned to dig trenches, to set up barricades, to identify the sounds of different types of artillery. The scariest was the whistle of bullets passing over our heads during exercises, a sharp, deadly sound that made me instinctively duck. I met other boys like me. Tommy Rodriguez, son of Mexican immigrants, who dreamed of going back home and opening a mechanic shop. James Cookie O'Brien, a funny Irishman who always had a joke ready, even when we were hungry and cold. And there was silent William Chin, the first in his family to go to college, who carried a faded photo of his girlfriend in his shirt pocket. We became brothers in those weeks. We shared cigarettes, food, stories from home. Cookie used to imitate Sergeant Miller's accent, making us laugh until we cried. Tommy taught me some words in Spanish and I taught him how to whistle like the birds on the farm. William was quiet, but he was always there when we needed him. The first time we heard real cannons, we were miles away, but the sound reverberated through the earth like thunder from an endless storm. The ground literally shook under our feet. It wasn't like thunder from home, which came and passed. It was constant, a low and threatening roar that never stopped. "That's the front," said Sergeant Miller, looking at the horizon where flashes of light blinked against the night sky. "In a week you'll be there." Mom, how can I describe what it's like to be in a trench when the bombardment begins? First you hear the distant whistle. Then the world explodes. The earth rises around you, rocks and mud fly everywhere, and the sound is so loud you can't even hear your own thoughts. We crouched in the trench for hours, pressing our helmets against the wet earth, praying that the next bomb wouldn't fall directly on us. Cookie was beside me, praying the rosary his mother had given him. Tommy held his family photo so tightly his fingers turned white. When the bombardment stopped, the silence was almost worse than the noise. Then we heard the whistle. It was the signal to advance. "Let's go, boys," shouted Sergeant Miller. Over the top. We climbed out of the trenches and began running across no man's land. It was a nightmare come true, Mom. The ground was full of craters, barbed wire, and other debris I prefer not to describe. The air was thick with smoke and something worse. We ran through that hell, screaming, shooting at shadows we could barely see. The sound of German machine guns was like the noise of a giant sewing machine, but each stitch it made was a deadly bullet. I saw Tommy fall. He stumbled and didn't get up again. I screamed his name, but Cookie grabbed me by the arm. "You can't stop," he yelled. "You have to keep going." We ran until we reached the German trench. And that's where it happened, Mom. That's where I became something I never thought I could be. I jumped into the German trench and found myself face to face with a young soldier. He couldn't have been more than 17, Mom. He had blonde hair and blue eyes, and for a terrible moment he reminded me of Cousin Eddie. He was trying to reload his weapon, but his hands were shaking as much as mine. We both stopped, looking at each other across just a few meters of distance. I could see the fear in his eyes, and I'm sure he saw the same in mine. For a moment that seemed like an eternity, neither of us moved. Then he raised his weapon. I didn't think, Mom. I just reacted. My bayonet was in my hand, and before I could process what was happening, I was running toward him. What happened next haunts me every night. I see those blue eyes, full of surprise and pain. I hear the sound he made. I see how he fell to the muddy ground of that trench and how something went out in his gaze. I found a letter in his pocket afterward. It was written in German, but I could understand some words. It was to his mother. He was telling her how he missed home, how he wanted to return to help in the family bakery. There was a photo too, a middle-aged woman with a gentle smile, similar to you, Mom. In that moment I realized he wasn't a monster. He was just a scared boy like me, far from home, trying to survive. And I killed him. After the battle, we returned to our trenches. We had lost Tommy, and Cookie was wounded in the leg. William survived, but had an empty look that wasn't there before. We all did. In the following days, I tried to continue as if nothing had happened. I cleaned my weapon, wrote cheerful letters home, participated in conversations with other soldiers. But every night when I closed my eyes, I saw those blue eyes. Cookie noticed something was wrong. "You're different, David," he said one night while we shared a can of cold beans. What happened there in the trench? I couldn't tell him. I couldn't tell anyone. How to explain that I killed a boy who could have been my younger brother? How to explain that I felt like a murderer, not like a soldier? I started drinking when I could find alcohol. I traded cigarettes for whiskey with older soldiers. It didn't help much, but at least it let me forget for a few hours. One night, William found me crying behind the latrines. He didn't say anything, just sat beside me. After a long silence, he murmured, "I killed someone that day too. An older man. He had a wedding ring." We realized we weren't alone. We all carried this weight. We had all been transformed into something we didn't recognize. "Mom, I'm writing this letter because tomorrow we're going to our last battle. The officers say that if we can take the city of Below Wood, the war might end. They say it might be our chance to finally go home. But I don't know if I deserve to go home, Mom. I don't know if I deserve to sit again at the kitchen table, help Dad with the harvest, or look into your eyes knowing what I did. I killed someone's son. I took a boy from his mother, who is probably still waiting for a letter that will never come. Every time I think about it, I feel a hole in my chest that seems never to close. I know you would say I was just doing my duty. I know you would say it was him or me, that it was war, that these things happen. But Mom, looking into those blue eyes, he didn't look like an enemy. He looked like a scared boy like me. Can God forgive what I did? Can you? Will I ever be able to forgive myself? I'm writing by candlelight, Mom. Cookie is sleeping beside me, snoring softly. His leg wound is healing well, thank God. William is on guard, looking at no man's land through an improvised periscope. I think a lot about home lately. About how the morning sun came through the kitchen window, about the smell of bread you made on Sundays, about how Dad taught me to fix tools in the barn. These memories seem from a different life, from a different person. Sometimes I wonder if that farm boy from Missouri still exists somewhere inside me, or if the war killed him too. Can I still feel simple joy watching a sunset? Can I still laugh at Cookie's jokes without thinking about death? I received a letter from you last week. You told me about how the harvest was good this year, about how Bessie the cow had a calf, about how neighbor Thompson asked about me. I cried when I read it, Mom. I cried because it seemed like a story from another world, a world where normal people do normal things, where death isn't a constant presence. You wrote that you're proud of me, that the whole town is proud of their heroes. But I don't feel like a hero, Mom. Heroes save lives. I took one. Tomorrow morning we'll receive the order to advance. It will be our last offensive before winter, maybe our last chance to end this war. The officers are confident, but we soldiers know that confidence doesn't stop bullets. Cookie is writing to his family too. William is sharpening his bayonet, more from nervousness than necessity. We're all doing small rituals, small things to feel in control when we know we're not. Mom, if I don't come back from this battle, I want you to know some things. First, that even with everything that happened, I still love our family, our farm, our simple life. The war didn't take that from me. Second, that I learned the value of true friendship. Cookie, Tommy, may God rest his soul, William, they became my brothers in a way I never thought possible. Third, and perhaps most important, I learned that we're not defined by our worst moments. Yes, I killed a boy. Yes, it changed me forever. But I also helped Cookie when he was wounded. I shared my food with William when he was sick. I comforted young soldiers on their first nights at the front. War forces us to do terrible things, Mom. But it also shows us what we're capable of when it comes to caring for each other. Maybe that's what keeps us human. Mom, I need to tell you something that happened a few days ago. We were on a reconnaissance patrol when we found a wounded German soldier in a crater. He was unconscious, losing blood, clearly dying. My first instinct was to keep walking. After all, he was the enemy. But then I saw he was about the same age as the boy I killed. He had the same blonde hair, the same thin build. I couldn't let him die, Mom. I used my first aid kit to stop the bleeding. I gave him water from my canteen. When he woke up and saw my uniform, the fear in his eyes was terrible. But then I said the only German word I knew, Freund, friend. We took him to an abandoned German first aid post we found. When we left him there, he held my hand and said something in German that I didn't understand, but the tone was one of gratitude. Walking back to our lines, I realized something had changed in me. It didn't erase what I did, didn't bring that boy back. But it showed me I can still choose life over death, compassion over hatred. Maybe that's what forgiveness means, Mom. Not forgetting what we did, but choosing to be better from now on. Dawn is coming, Mom. I can see the first lights of the sun touching the horizon. In a few hours we'll climb out of the trenches again and run across no man's land. I'm afraid I won't lie. Afraid of dying, afraid of being wounded, afraid of having to kill again. But I also have something I didn't have before. Hope. Hope that this is really the last battle. Hope that Cookie, William and I can go home. Hope that the world can be rebuilt, that we can learn from this madness. If I survive, Mom, I want to help rebuild. I want to work with other veterans, help those who are suffering like I suffered. I want to be part of the solution, not the problem. I want to plant things instead of destroying them. I want to build bridges instead of digging trenches. I want to teach children to value peace so maybe their generation will never have to go through this. Mom, before I finish this letter, I want to make a promise. If God allows me to come home, I will honor the memory of that German boy by living a life that means something. I will tell the truth about war, not just the glories that newspapers like to print, but also the real cost. I will talk about how it transforms ordinary people into soldiers, how it tests our humanity in ways we never imagined. I will visit Tommy's family when I get back. I will tell them he died bravely, that he spoke of them until the end. I will help Cookie with his repair shop when he gets home. I will be there for William when he needs me. And Mom, I will be a better son. I will value every family meal, every conversation on the porch, every ordinary moment that I used to think was unimportant. War taught me there's nothing ordinary about being alive, being home, being with the people we love. Mom, if I don't come back from this war, there are some things I want you to do for me. First, tell Dad I used everything he taught me. His lesson about always helping a neighbor in need saved me more than once here. His demonstration of how to be strong but gentle guided me through the most difficult moments. Second, plant a tree for me in the orchard. It doesn't matter what kind, but let it be one that bears fruit. I want future generations to be able to sit in its shade and eat its fruits, and maybe, just maybe, think of peace. Third, if you ever meet a veteran who is suffering, who seems lost or angry, be patient with him. Remember that we all carry ghosts, we all have moments we wish we could undo. Finally, Mom, I want you to know that you forgave me before I even asked. I know your heart, I know your kindness. I know you understand that sometimes we're forced to do terrible things to survive, but that doesn't make us terrible people. As I write these LST words, Mom, my heart is full of gratitude. Gratitude for growing up in a family that taught me values, for knowing true love before knowing hatred. I'm grateful for Cookie, who made me laugh when I thought I'd never laugh again. I'm grateful for Tommy, who showed me that courage isn't the absence of fear, but doing what needs to be done despite the fear. I'm grateful for William, who taught me that strength sometimes means crying with a friend. I'm grateful even for this terrible moment, because it taught me things about myself I might never have learned. I learned I can be broken and still continue. I learned I can do something terrible and still find a path to redemption. Most of all, I'm grateful to know I'm loved. Your letters, Mom, your words of encouragement, your unwavering faith in me, that kept me alive when everything else failed. The sun is rising now, Mom. I can hear birds singing. It's strange how life continues, even in the middle of war. There's a bird that sings every morning from a broken tree near our trench. Its song reminds me of the birds on the farm, reminds me of home. Cookie is waking up, stretching and complaining about his aching back. William is returning from his guard duty, looking tired but determined. In a few minutes, Sergeant Miller will come with our orders. Mom, I don't know what this day will bring. I don't know if I'll be alive to see the sunset. But I know that, whatever happens, I am your son. I am part of a family that loves me, part of a tradition of decent people who do the best they can. If I die today, I die knowing I was loved. If I live, I will live trying to be worthy of that love. Mom, I can hear the whistle approaching. It's time to go. Cookie is checking his weapon one last time. William is putting his girlfriend's photo back in his pocket. We're all doing our little farewell rituals. I want you to know I'm not angry. I'm not angry at the Germans, I'm not angry at the politicians who sent us here, I'm not even angry at God. I have sadness, yes. I have fear, yes. But I also have hope. Hope that this is really the last battle. Hope that we can build a world where young men like me don't have to write letters like this. Hope that love is stronger than hate, that life is stronger than death. Mom, if I don't come back, live. Live fully, live with joy, live with purpose. Don't waste time on unnecessary sadness. I chose to be here, chose to do my duty as I saw it. Honor that choice by living well. And if I come back, when I come back, I will need time to heal. I will need patience while I learn to be civilian again. I will need help rebuilding who I was before all this. But I promise I will return, Mom. Not just my body but my soul. It might take a while, but I will find my way back home, back to myself. Mom, I'm writing this last part of the story at home, sitting on the porch where I used to sit as a child. The war is over. I survived the Battle of Belleau Wood. Cookie and William survived too, though we all came back changed. The battle was everything I feared and more. We lost good men, men who had become my brothers. But it was also the beginning of the end. A few weeks later, the armistice was signed. The war was over. The road back home was long, not just geographically but emotionally. There were nights when nightmares woke me screaming. There were days when I could barely get out of bed. There were moments when I wanted to give up. But you were there, Mom. Dad was there. The family was there. Slowly, with love and patience, you helped me find my way back. I started working with other veterans as I promised. We founded a group where we meet every week to talk about our experiences. We discovered that sharing the weight makes everything more bearable. I visited Tommy's family. It was one of the hardest things I've ever done, but also one of the most important. I was able to tell them what kind of man he was, how he made us laugh, how he died bravely. His mother cried, but she also smiled. She said it meant a lot to know he wasn't alone. As for that German boy I killed, I still think about him. I always will. But I learned that carrying this guilt doesn't honor him. What honors him is living a life that's worthwhile, a life that contributes to the world instead of taking from it. I planted a tree for him too, Mom. Not in our orchard, but in a small memorial we created in town for all the war victims, Americans, Germans, French, everyone. It's an apple tree. In spring it produces beautiful white flowers. The war taught me that we're all connected, that a German mother's pain is no different from an American mother's pain. That the love a father feels for his son is the same, regardless of the flag that son carries. Mom, I'm no longer the boy who left the farm 2 years ago. I'm more serious, more thoughtful, more aware of life's fragility. But I'm also more grateful, more compassionate, more determined to make a difference. War broke me, but you helped me rebuild myself. And in the rebuilding, I discovered I can be stronger in the places where I was broken. This is my story, Mom. A story of war and peace, of destruction and reconstruction, of guilt and forgiveness. A story I hope never needs to be repeated, but one I know needs to be told. Because when we stop telling these stories, when we stop remembering the real cost of war, we risk repeating the same mistakes. May this story serve as a reminder that behind every soldier is a family, behind every casualty is an interrupted life, behind every victory is a price someone paid. And that the greatest victory of all is when we manage to choose love over hate, construction over destruction, hope over despair. Thank you for bringing me back home, Mom. Thank you for helping me find my way back to myself. With all my love, David, this story is dedicated to all the young people who left for war and to those who waited for them at home. May their stories never be forgotten, and may their lessons guide us toward a more peaceful world.